Hi, Pastor Kip here. Some years ago, my wife and I had been at the church and then left that evening and went to dinner. And we went to this restaurant that we often frequented. People knew who we were, the people who worked in the restaurant, the servers, even the owner. And as we took our seat at the table, when the server came up to take our order and get our drinks, she looked at us kind of oddly, first at me and then my wife, and then she said, "I didn't know you were Catholic," and kind of caught me off guard. And I said, "Well, I'm not Catholic. You know where I am. I'm the senior pastor at the church just right down the street." She said, "Well, that's what I thought." I said, "So what would make you think that we're Catholic?" And she said, "Because you have the smudge of ash on your forehead." We had been at the Ash Wednesday service. I'd been preaching and conducting worship. We had imposed the ashes, and then we'd gone out to dinner and had kind of forgotten about them being there. They're supposed to be there as a witness anyway, but her confusion over that's a Catholic thing, isn't it? It's not a Protestant thing that you do. We had a wonderful conversation with her, talked to her about faith, her stereotypes about Roman Catholicism, and the ways in which the wider Christian body celebrates the holy seasons, such as the season of Lent. On February the 18th at 6 p.m. here in the sanctuary will be our Ash Wednesday service. This will be my first Ash Wednesday service with you. And I just want you to know that Lent is one of my favorite times in the Christian year. It's so easy for us to kind of skip over Lent and rush on to Easter because Easter is so beautiful and attractive. The flowers and the music and the grandeur and the festivity associated with it. But there's a reason why the church, the ancient church I'm talking about now, set aside 40 days in the spirit of Jesus' time in the wilderness, 40 days in the wilderness as he prepared for his ministry. The church set aside 40 days, excluding the Sundays, from Ash Wednesday till Holy Week and Easter, as a way of preparing, getting our minds and hearts in sync with what it means to declare Christ lives, that the risen Christ is with us. Lent is a time of preparation. It's a time of prayer. It's a time of penitence. It's a time of focusing on spiritual things in ways in which we may not. And on Ash Wednesday, the reason we make that little mark of ash in the form of a cross on a penitent's forehead, because in the ancient world, ashes were a symbol of repentance. It was a symbol of our own mortality, our own finitude, that without God, we are nothing. And we need to be reminded that from birth to death is our call to live out our lives to the glory of God. And sometimes we don't do that, at least not the way we should. You know, Lent is a time too when people often give up something as a symbolic sacrifice. As Christ gave up his life, so we give up things. We give up chocolates, or we give up certain drinks, wine, alcohol, or we give up certain foods or certain pleasures or certain entertainments. One Lent some years ago, I gave up coffee. After a few days of doing that, my executive assistant at the time said, "Please don't do that again." I guess I'd gotten grumpy. I'd gotten irritable a little bit, didn't even realize it. But it was a great sacrifice for you to make that year. What are you going to give up for Lent? Sometimes, in addition to giving up something, or rather than giving up something, we take up something, such as a devotional life that we've been neglecting, or a prayer life, a life of meditation. Sometimes people walk a prayer labyrinth. This Lent, I'm going to share something with you, and I'm going to ask you to take up something with me. Now, give up something. I've got some things in my life I'm going to give up during Lent. My wife and I usually do it together. That way we can support each other during the time of sacrifice and fasting. But on Ash Wednesday, I have a special message I'm going to be preaching called The Cross in My Pocket. And I'm going to share with you something I'm going to do this Lent, something I've never done before, as a way of helping me focus on what Lent and Easter is really all about. And I'm going to have a special gift for each of you who join me in worship. Now, to get one of these, you got to be there in worship on Ash Wednesday and to understand what it's all about. We'll have, of course, nursery care, child care. There'll be children's moment. It'll be a full worship experience, a full worship service with special music. And as I mentioned, this special message I'm going to be sharing with you, The Cross in My Pocket. This coming Sunday, we will continue our sermon series on the Dirty Dozen, in search of the 12 apostles. And we'll be focusing on the apostle Philip. Philip is known as the apostle with questions. he had some questions for Jesus. He didn't understand some things that Jesus was saying. And after all, that's how we are. At least that's how I am. I have a lot more questions than I have answers when it comes to following Christ. And maybe you do too. So we're going to address some of those powerful questions that Philip raised in his relationship with Jesus. And I will look forward to seeing you this Sunday. Mark your calendar for Ash Wednesday, and let us have a holy Lenten season together. And this Sunday, bring a friend, a family member, and join us for an exciting time of worship together as we dare to ask some very important questions about our faith. I'll look forward to seeing you this Sunday. God bless you.